Understanding face recognition system and lines of travel is to identify your system off through laser. It's like kind of like seeing yourself in a CGI through a platform, trying to understand your set location setting through computer operated set location of the laser. Trying to understand how to use it through your entry and your exit points. Setting lines of core center. So let's get a box frame and track location system. 4 settings of travel, right? All right, so we set an A track, A lines of center, and A lines of 3 line rotation system. Okay. So that's 3 lines of provisions, center core lines of 1, center core lines of 2, and center core lines of 3 in traction, right? 3 different directions. So each line signal is an entry to an exit point. Look at that. It disappeared. It doesn't want to be in signal. Oh, look at that. It doesn't want to be in signal. Unbelievable. All right, so we got a line signal that's grounds, setting cross location, outline setting. Okay, process lines in and out in track locations. Okay, so we got 3 signature A's. Now we got an A line over rotations and 4 lines of track center locations, just an A. This is A, alphabetical of A. All right, so we have the enter points at A, inner line rotations, outline rotation. Okay, process lines of A, inside and outside location. Very complicated stuff, but you see it through all levels in position locations of 4 frame tractions, indirect signals, and modification grounds. Okay, now, to change anything information system, you change the tractions and direction. Okay? You change the tractions and direction. Different lines of calculation setting, all line position locations. Same level, just different frequencies of A, right? Because they don't look like A anymore, do they? U lines, upside line, triangulation lines of flux, 2 lines of triangulation line position locations, setting core lines of high position location of platforms, over cross location settings, and process calculation, all through traction. All right, so let's go and process communication system. Now, what do we have as set location lines? A setting, D, right? So that automatically changes line settings of D over tractions into A. Position lines of D over tractions and line position to A. Position lines of high position. Now we're going to go into B lines of centers, out cross locations, screen lines adaptations. C in the lines of the communication lines of D and track locations. Now, what I'm doing right now, guys, is understanding how a photo was created through laser tractions, how a computer operates a system through algorithms. Setting lines of D over A, D lines of A, D lines of A, D lines of D, and D lines of A, and track communications. There's the pyramid, boom. Setting core lines and ground communication lines of its walls of indication setting and travel, okay? Process lines of A over lines of A, position lines of D over track location to its pyramid and track location of travel, all right? Setting lines of communication lines of grounds and surface and track locations. All right. So this is an algorithm. This is a schematics. This is a drawing, right? It's basically understanding how to put the alphabetical system in laser in your computer frame locations, your mainframes, and all communications, how to create it through your images, through your vision, through your cortex, that puts everything in the mystical cortex of the design through its cerebral. So you add the lines of communication endorphins into your series A, B, and C. The processing communication in your alphabetical system is to understand how to put that in line core centers in line communication setting. How many configuration settings of letters are you going to use in a box frame communication setting and travel? Okay? Setting signals, setting grounds, setting core positions, back and setting. All right? All right, so basically it's line connecting through laser lines, C over lines, C over A over D in track locations. Direct lines in A over cross lines at A, lines of 3 in track locations. Direct lines and unification centers, A over cross, A over M, A over C, and C over A over C, A over D, D over C, back in C in set position. Okay? Set lines of tractions, high direct signals, and modification grounds. It doesn't look like much, but when you put it together and set position locations, you start to understand how to create everything in signal of line of communication. There's your pyramid. Boom. There's your floor mat, direct and signal line. There's your ceiling and track location to its system, all through set position. All right. So working with the alphabet is a laser connection system with line track locations. Let's go in the configuration system and voice and lines. Setting ground lines, face direction and configuration system. So let's start with that. 1 point centers, half pipe, 6 lines of signals, Cross lines, 2 lines provision, right? 3 centers, position of 6 centers over 8 tractions, 9 divisions, 12 signals, and 24 set position. All right, crossing lines, ground line, core centers, a crop circle. Remember, 4 different pictures in one line position existing all at once. Set core lines settings, high direct signals, and ground lines of service. So we got a position lines of a door here, and a door here, and a door here, and 3 cycles and 3 centers, right? Directing line into 1 in position of 2 over 3, all right? So let's say we're going to go into B equals C. C equals lines of A, away position lines of D, and track locations, right? Now, it's much easier to use the alphabetical system because you understand how to use it in chronological order. You can go from A, B, and C back to C, P, lines of G, or lines of A, or lines of R, into S line, Z line, X line 1, line position lines of 2, 2 position lines of setting, position lines of center, operation set, track location lines of computer operation at 0, 1. So there's a lot of things that you can do once you send the metric location, the alphabetical set location laser into your CGI set position to travel. Okay, so we've got 3 indication lines of doors. Directing lines, set position lines A over A, and position lines equals. Okay, equals lines of 2 track location lines into E factors, and track correlation system and travel. This modifies the tri-factor screen adaptation of process lines of 1. Sets course centers, inline rotations to surface and track locations. Very complicated stuff, a lot of fun. All right, so we set course centers into high course center location and hieroglyphics. Directed signals. Now we modify the ground lines of course centers, lines of travel. Setting location high position of 0, 1. Process lines of 0, 3. Process lines of 0, 6. And travel. Set lines of clocking lines of 3 track location and high position. Remember, everything's existing all at once. Letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Everything's existing, 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 existing. Never stops running, but it constantly changes its alphabetical stream. You have a modification ground, you have a communication ground, you have an operation ground, you have a graphical screen lines communication ground, you have a correlation communication ground, you have a hologram communication, you have a pixelation ground, a track location ground, high communication ground, operation ground, you have an ozone ground, communication lines, your atmosphere grounds, and communication setting, hemispheres, atmospheres, bio, brain, line, core centers, lines of travel, in line, rotation, service, and travel, in communication setting, high lines of service, that position location to a system, all through track location setting in the alphabetical system, line direct signals and ground lines of surface and track locations, all through set position. Okay? Okay, so I'm trying to get you to understand how to put this all together through laser track communications. Face recognition. We'll start with the face, right? Okay, 2 eye divisions, 1 line setting, 1 position lines at high centers, right? All right, so we have the dimensional door. Again, the dimensional door right there, right? So we got platform 1 and we got platform 2. Inside position, inside connections, right? Then we ground lines of signals, process lines of setting. You have the high position location of travel and direct signal. All right, so directing lines of platforms would come into the bold screen adaptation of its door. Travel inline rotation to its surface. Process calculation lines over track location lines of A, set position lines of A, set position lines of A, set position lines of high position location lines of C, and track location lines of T, set position lines of triangulation of flux over screen. Setting lines of track centers open all signals. Now we triangulate the position location lines of direct signals of laser. Process lines of 1, process lines of 2, process lines of 3 over flux. Directing signals lines high position location, low position location, line signal location, line high correlation setting, and travel endpoint communications. All line position locations of program and track locations. So it stairs going down, right? Okay, process lines of A, process lines of C. So we got A here, and we got C here, we got B there. So it's a moderation system through an entry and an exit point in set position lines of travel. Direct ground lines of 1, ground lines of 2, and ground lines of 3, and track locations. Stairs going down. Boom. Very confusing, right? But it's a lot of fun. Flicking the switch, direct signals, and set position locations going up the ladder. Okay, very powerful stuff. So you got your door lines of signals. So if you're going to put yourself in frame, you got to put yourself in 4 A's attractions, right? Because you're north, east, west, and south, and 4 lines of communication of signals. So you get A, 4 line course centers, Merkabah line rotation cycles, center line communication, setting lines of travel, directed signals and grounds. Setting core lines, calculates lines, going through the dimensional door, setting lines of signals into ground lines of service, 1 position, 2 position, 3 positions. Set 3 lines of signals, high position lines of A, track case lines of B, B lines of C, D lines of E line, rotation, set position of travel. Directed signals, set lines of ground lines of surface and track locations. All right, so that goes up the stairs. One position of one position of two, one position of three, and track locations. Going up the stairs and travel, all right? Now we're going to change the core lines, high position location to its setting, go through a portal, a wormhole, and set track locations. Direct lines of half pipe, set position of 1, set position of 2, set position of 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and set position of signals and set travel. Setting core lines of travels, direct signals of flux over screen, the lines of earth and rotation surface and travel. Direct lines of phase direction time sequence, position lines of high position location of cyborg and set track locations. Directing core lines of setting, flux over line, and center communicates and setting high lines of surface and traction. Bring it back home, back in equation, back in panel, back in operation surface, and track correlation system, all through travel. Booyah. So all you're doing is creating story frames, but it's existing all at once in set position. You notice I'm pausing here and there because I'm going very fast in travel. So I'll slow down rotation, setting lines of tractions. Everything inside you is attached to you from outside, and outside is everything attached to you from inside. That's all in line position. General has spoken. Okay, so let's continue on in path. Okay, so you're based on your solar system, right? Now you have to understand how to use your alphabetical system. This is an anagram and interference. Anagram interference is taking out everything location setting, solar line generation, screen lines, solar line communication setting, the flux over screen, directing line position location, echo Zulu, position lines of platforms of Tango Tango Foxtrot, X-ray Zulu. Sets all communication lines at ground as a center core system. Now you can add equation lines of setting of 22 tractions. Okay, and 6 lines of measure. That's lines of position of 2 centers and 2 lines of set position of 6. You see how my finger traveled? See that? See how it goes in signal? 2 lines of settings. That's 2 line rotations. Pyramid line direct signals. Ground lines of 1, ground lines of 2, and perimeters of 3 set location. There's your pyramid. Boom. All right, so we signify, we change the upline screen. I change the core centers and left line signal. Process line, remember, it's existing all at once. So we got a 2-track location of 2, and the track location of 2, there's the code lines of binary and 9 position location setting. The link lines of panel, position lines of A, process lines of 0 line, process lines of C, process lines of 1, process lines of 3, and process lines of 6, process lines of 9, sets core centers into 10, 11, and 12 track locations. Okay? Set core lines, calculation setting, your pyramid and activation screen. Oh yeah. All right, okay. It gets complicated, but you see it on a 4-line panel. There's the holographic gridding, there's the location system and travels, there's your location grid, there's your modification grounds, and your solar sail and location. All right, so walk in the sim lines of 1. Remember, you got to bring your 4 signals lines of A and travel communication lines of its grounds. Core lines of tractions, direct lines, dimension lines of sail, crosses inside position location to its system, all through tractions. Now you're in the solar sail. Set grounds, set core lines of travels, directing lines, and delta heading and process communication. Booyah. Moving through signal, moving through grounds, moving through surface. All right, so we set core centers, line direct signals, and ground lines of surface and track location system, right? A balloon. So we set core centers into the balloon. Okay, we're in the balloon right now. High rise in its travels, endpoint lines of communication, sending highlights of surface. There's the balloon, inside the balloon. So we have to truly understand how to 4 lines of signals, ground lines of surface, and track correlation system, and lines of travel. Back in sequence, back in panel, back in operation, surface, and travel communications. Very complicated stuff, but it's a lot of fun. Codifying your system. Coding is a lines encryption, directing line signals, puts everything in platform inline rotation to its calculations, using letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, and all through track locations, right? Now, what you have to understand in lines of 4 sequence, let's put an L line track. There's an L line, right? So atmosphere, this is atmosphere A equals lines of ozone. Okay, A equals lines of ozone. So it has a line center, a Z, in position of X, and center lines of Y equals lines of question and travel. Okay, so what we have to identify, what the question is, a line screen adaptation, is processing that through the central system of the electrical setting that puts all communication through alphabetical system, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do the codify. All right, ABC, track line center, high line position location line setting, high position location line, high line position location, H line screen, direct lines of L, line position location to G, G line rotation, line position location setting, Z lines of Y, line condition setting, back in A, to Z, line B, right? That's all it is. That's all it is. That's all this is. Process and communication is its window frame. Process line correlates to any high lines of travel. Direct lines is symbolism lines of location grid. Setting core lines, attractions, high direct signals of primal circuits, direct lines. Each line indicating system has a high lines of travel communications. Okay, so we go through platforms 1, 2, and 3 lines of measure and track locations, right? Let's have a direct lines of panel and cross location of screen line adaptation to its holographic gridding. Process line signal, we change the question lines of question equals lines of 2 lines of measure, 2 lines of attractions, and 3 line communication lines of service. Okay, so we have a direct line of panel. X lines of 1, platform is setting. X lines of 1 over cross location. X lines of 2 in line position of 1, 1, 2. Codified line connection location grid and line screen. Direct lines of 1 XC1000 above signal and track location setting of measure and scale. Setting core lines of setting, process lines of 1, process lines of 2, process lines of 3, and process lines of 4, and set track locations. Hooah! Okay, so it's really interesting when you add screen adaptation of surface and track locations. Okay, high lines of channels, high lines of rotation, in track location of system. All these. Okay, we got sonar line division. We got planet sequence here, planet sequence here, planet sequence here. So every time you get into your solar system, oh, look at that. See it disappear by itself. See, there it is. There's the 3 planets, right? 3 planets in signal. But remember, you got to use your alphabetical laser that processes communication to its coordinates. Guys, look how fast I'm moving. Everything is in slow motion. See? Isn't that wild? Does that blow your mind? Like, whoa. Okay, he's going way too fast, right? You see the pause? All right, so setting signals and ground lines of service. Now, once you understand the indication system to anything in travel, it gets much easier how you high signal location setting your binaries that sets lines of the algorithm location in your coding and codification system. Let's get into your sonar and line course centers and line position of soul lines and metric meters and scale communication system all through tractions. Let's set up, shall we? The nanogram is a line course settings or crossword puzzle has a high signal location of ground lines of settings. We got an X platform into 1 signal, process lines over signing, cross location setting into O lines of track lines of D, setting process communications, O line signal location grid, right? So cross line signal, X line crosses lines of 0 and track locations, right? Sets communication lines of time stamping and track locations. See the time. Remember, it's a continuous force of storytelling. That's all it is in travel. Point lines of graph, point lines of setting, open signal, open panel, open operation signals, and ground lines and part of acceleration system, all through time measured and existing all at once in set position. Okay, so we cross line signals. So we go through laser tractions to 3 lines of rotation surface and tractions. Okay, then we have a direct line of panel. We overline the sequence location lines of position location metric meters. Scales communication lines, high operation sequence lines of panel. Okay, platforms lines of signals lines of 1, platforms lines of signal lines of 2, and earth line rotation surface, and an XT1000 and above signal and rotation. Okay, process lines of signal, process line down cross location of triangulation split lines of anomaly and set track locations. There's your pyramid and track location. Now we're going to go through 3 line signals into 3 mountains of travel. Cross line course centers, a center communication center, and high position location to a system all through track locations. Right? So it's amazing how you just come into story frame of everything in travel communications. Has more fun, has high position locations. All right, so setting lines of calculation, screen lines, adaptation, high lines of service is all through box framing. Okay, the entry and the exit points. Everything has an entry, everything has an exit. Okay, so your pyramid, right? Let's get a 4 signal and line rotations. Track locations, right? So it's got 2 panels here, 2 panels here, 1 panel here, 1 entry, 1 exit. Okay? Process lines of signals into 2 door screens. There's your nose. Okay? So 1 entry point here, 1 entry point here. Okay? 1 entry point here and 1 entry point here. Exit in line position. 1 enters, 1 exits. All right, so you go through mechanism lines of 1 and cross lines of 2 and track locations. All right, directing ground lines, set position to pyramid lines, signal lines and modifications setting up signal into line core center core system into your browsers and track location. There's your browsers, right? Now, directing lines of the browsers over line sequence in position location of your eyes and track location lines of highest track location to a system all through travel. Directing calculation line, ground lines, highest interference is the above system location to its measure and communications. There's the intelligence. All right, so we have high lines of signals and platforms going in the same direct signals of platform communications. Same lines of tractions and direct and redirect signals and 3 track locations. Whoa. Okay, platform line signals would come into the line calculation system to its ears. Process lines of 1, process lines of 2, and track locations. Direct lines, ground lines of setting, ground lines of surface, and track locations, intelligence of face recognition. All right, so how we get in position is line signaling. Position lines in upper line and cross lines of center line and ground lines of surface. And track locations. Direct lines of modification grounds, 1 setting and 2, and 3, 1 setting and 4, platform of 5, and platform of 6 and 7 locations. There's your pyramid. All right, so high cross lines, we go through 1 signal. All laser, all has to be in set position location of chronological order and traction. Sets lines of gridding, line screen adaptation, and process lines that indicates the system of grounds lines of surface. Setting communicates cross line angles. Set position lines of 1, 2, and 3 track location lines of gridding. Process line signals, open all signals, and ground lines of surface and track locations. Okay. Setting lines of grounds and center communication to its surface. Platforms line setting high line rotation to its calculations. Face recognition. Look at that. Boom. See the face? All right, so gridding lines across lines. Let's go through 40 line centers. 4 communication system all through gridding and set track locations. All right. Mechanism of high force, high signals. Let's go through flux over 3 and platforms over E over track locations. Setting signals, ground lines of surface, and face recognition time sequence lines of communication lines of panel. Process line signals, ground line settings, overline setting, overlapping sequence lines of panel communications. All through direction. Right. House recognition time lines, pyramid lines, process communication lines of doors, and screen adaptation. See, you see it? See the house? So you're constantly changing shapes. So when you're changing shapes, all you're doing, guys, is your line signaling, and the alphabetical system is constantly changing in seconds, minutes, and hours. And when it's changing in seconds, minutes, and hours, it's so powerful. So powerful. You could add 4 frames of traction in a box. Box here, box here, box here, and box here in set position. All at once. All at once. Right? All right, so now you have to understand why it's so important to understand the entry and the exit points. Okay, so it's about understanding how to line grid your system so it gets in position to its binary where it comes in its transistors of its resistors. Transmitting out, receiving in, transmitting out, receiving in. Now, understand the positions. A track, A position, A equals lines of E. Now, E is the E factors of our screen. All right. Then we go to question of center line, and then we go into high position locations into 3 signals, center lines of 1, 0, and track location. Now, directing lines of panel. Process lines, if you want to indicate your system lines of travel, cross the screen and direct signals of ground lines of surface. This processes the angles of the line screen adaptation to its brain convergence that sets line signals into the other side position of gridding. Process lines of 3 windows and tractions. See the 3 windows? Okay, so 3 windows, we go through open frame. That division lines its doors and 3 lines of track centers and open line frame communication system all through tractions. Oh yeah. All right, so gridding lines changes core lines of track centers, inline position location, motion centers. Directing lines of window frames, over cross locations, over line signal locations to its truth and its false narrative of its window. Process line signals, over cross location lines into high position of 3 weather panels, 3 tracks, 3 divisions, 4 locations, and 5 track locations. Gridding lines, high position of 1, 2, and 3, set lines of 4, 6 over 8, and travel communications. Directing lines of platforms, line signal location setting to its dimensional door and its track location. All right, so the door here is signaling in line rotation set high position of its surface. Process lines that indicates and setting and process communication system all through track locations. Sending direct lines, high position location to its system all through its house. See the house? See the gridding? All right, so it is Doctor Strange when you look at it. Process lines that indicate lines of 1 over cross lines of 2 and track location to its system. All through measure, all through scale. All right? Directing ground lines of service and location of schematics over lines of windows and line communication, gridding, and track location setting. Inside, outside, inside, outside. Above the signal, ground lines of surface, inside rotation. So I'm here now, I'm inside the actual settings and communication of its grounds and track locations. Inside, outside. Okay? Bring it back home, back in equation, back at center, back in operation set, track locations. Right? So you guys have to understand the inside and outside of a box. Set position lines of triangulations. Have to understand direct signals of its angles. 3 angles, lines of 3, right? Remember, if you're going to use the 3 here, you have to understand how to use the 3 here, right? You don't start here in set position. Everything's inside tractions. Everything has to be inside. So it doesn't matter if it's outside. Everything's inside, okay? So you can never have a 3 here and a triangulation here and not understand why. Because it's open panel, okay? That puts lines of high position to overdraft here, line position locates signified to overdraft here, line position overdraft here, and 3 triangulation lines of flux, crosses lines of screen adaptation, right? I know it's complicated. So add 3 lines of signals and line position of 6 over measure. Scales communication lines of grounds, flux over 3, flux over 7, set line rotation to your pyramid and traction. There's your pyramid, boom. All right, ground lines of course centers, lines of 0, process lines of 2, set lines of triangulation of flux, and 3 lines of center and travel communication of face recognition. Boom. Setting core lines of tractions, overline signals, ground lines of calculation setting, browse adapters, and 3 lines of signals and travel. Setting communication of high mechanism, high position wall sequence, ground lines of setting, and electrical line communication of fencing. Process calculation lines, 0 track, 0 division location to its sitting, wall to wall. Setting core lines that calculate screen lines, set position here, and travel. 4 signature lines of grounds. Okay, process lines of 1, 2, and platforms of 6 over 8 and 12, and set position lines of 8 track locations. Directing lines of course centers and dimensional door. Setting lines of 1 signal, 1 pattern. Process lines over cross location, open window, and frame communication lines of pattern. Directing signal lines of ground course centers, 3 course centers, lines of travel, and direct signals of window. Sending core lines of calculation setting, overline sequence, overline of panel, and process communication of bolding. Track location line centers, open all signals. Process line of setting, process line communication system, all through your pyramids, and 4 lines of grounds, and 4 lines of travels, over cross location setting and gridding, and track locations. Hoo-ah. Inside position. That's inside. Inside. It's very powerful when you look at it, right? And that's you right here. Okay, so you have to stand inside of a box and outside of a box. That's the only way you guys get in provision lines of cycles through your A tracks. Come into your entry and your exit points. But look how powerful that is. That's inside of the game itself. Okay, modify lines, centers, process communication system. Look at this in tractions. Whoa. And look at this in set locations. Very powerful set lines. Look at this. Whoa. But it's all inside. It's very confusing to the mind line. Cross line signals, process lines of 1, 2, 3. Center core system, line track center location of liquid formation lines of grounds. Center core line centers, center line rotations in a box spring in position location to its system. Open all tractions in the opposite cycle and high lines of ground lines of surface and track locations inside the division. All right? So it's setting lines of 1 in positional platforms over signal over pi. This is lines of 8 track location lines of overriding and line rotation setting of the circuitry lines of elements into the game modulation screen and adaptation. Okay, setting signals, process lines of 1, process lines of 2, process lines of 3, process lines of 4, and process lines of 5 in track locations. Inside, guys. Okay, it's very powerful. Look at this in travel. More lines, communication lines of schematics. You see more of the inside and setting. Setting traction here, but now I'm here. I was here. Now I'm here. Explain that. You explain how I went from here to here by itself. Hooah. You saw the figure go here, but now it's here, traveling by itself. Okay, so window frames has an energy grid lines and lacing line course centered lines of travel, has a direct line link. Platforms of 1, platforms of 2, 3, and 4 lines of metric meters and scales and communication lines of triangulation and flux. Let's line ground lines of setting. Look at this in the angle and track locations. Hooah, inside position. Inside the game of box frame. So you got to see the box frame in 4 different angles in position, inside and outside at the same time. At 4 different angles. Look how powerful that is, right? If I put myself here, I'm in gridding my communications, moving forward in track location, inside connection. Boom. Bring it back home, back into correlation setting lines of travel. Boom. See, amazing how you see yourself inside position. All right, but that's the optical illusion, because basically you have to see everything, how it all comes together through all line communication entry and its exit points. Let's go through triangulation inside. Triangulation here, right? But as soon as you go inside, you start to evolve yourself. You see the more lines, the interconnection system that interfaces everything through attraction. And you get more modification lines of ground. See, it's starting to come inside now. Inside and outside, right? Platform here, platform here. So you can see it more coming inside now, right? But more real is putting the alphabetical system outside through its equation into all lines and track locations. Center communications, right? So it's starting to see, look inside now, right? So we go into more gridding and position, what it's like to be inside a structure of a triangle. Inside, guys, inside and outside at once. 4 signal lines of A equals lines in position lines at X platform. A equals X platform. Now that's one question mark in setting. A process line over lines of 3 indicates position location of 2 lines of measure and track location of security. Direct lines of platforms sets lines of 1 and position lines of 2 and track locations. Now the indicate lines of grounds sets lines of communication. Frequency is too high. So we set an 8 track, 3 lines of flux, 3 line divisions, and center core line position of time capacitor. Setting rotation line cycles, high core lines of system. So we lines of grids, setting lines of 1 in position of 2 over 3 and track location of gridding. Process line signals into 1 in position of 2 and 3 lines of correlation lines of gridding. Cross line signals and line position location to its measure. Scales communication system, all through configuration settings. Look at this instructions. Inside calculation. Inside track locations. See the intelligence? Look, guys. This is the intelligence. There's the eyes inside track locations. See it? There's the intelligence looking down at you. See? You see? Intelligence inside looking down at you in a triangulation box. All right, measuring the scale crosses over line position location to its window frame and line position location. The geometric lines of shapes changes all communication of theta of communication lines of angles. Process line direct signals, cross line over lines, process line direct signals into your pyramid interaction. Setting different angles with core lines of signals. Now it gets more complicated when you get more in communication setting, high lines of track locations and direction. Right? Look at this in position locations. Hooah. Okay, very, very powerful stuff in traction. Okay, there's always going to be, you see the structure of the building? 2 angle point lines, 3 lines of track correlation system of travel. Okay? Yeah, it gets more complicated. Trust me, it's more fun. You just have fun. But it's amazing when you start understanding how it comes in all lines of direct signals inside track locations. Setting lines of 1 over cross lines. Line rotation surface and track location to a system off the measure and scale communication. Okay, now it's an open ground and you in the center. Open ground, you in the center of the compound. So each line is a story frame. It tracks its communicates setting, high lines of signals to change communicates from metric meters to scales to communicate setting into your alphabetical grounding. Setting lines of track centers of flux and 3 lines of signals to XT1000, looking at you and down cross location towards crop circle and track location. Look at that. Booyah. Everything's inside now. See? So you got to get thinking outside the box. Okay? Think outside the box. But look how powerful it is when you go inside and track locations. Oh, inside. Inside, guys. The game that you're in is inside you. You live inside yourself in triangulation box or anything in letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Okay? Let's get into symbols. The lines of correlation setting of Fibonacci. Setting lines of 3 signals, 6 lines on position of 9 in sequence. We start with that correlation. So let's start with the box frame. It looks like an optical illusion, but it correlates as track centers. Okay, then we have an optical lens. Line corresponding to your primates, line rotation setting your primary circuits, over cross location setting, and 4 lines of measure and scale communications. All right, so we add lines and 4 lines of signals. Everything has the laser track at the center of operation surface and track location. Okay, we work with inside track locations. Inside. We work with the inside. So it's like schematics working with inside line position. Okay, and then we over cross location of screen line. Right. And then we down screen lines adaptation of space, recognition of time sequence, inside track locations, inside, everything's inside. Everything's inside you. Your struct is inside your system, but you have to stand inside to understand outside and track locations. All right, so we get a pi line, pi course, pi traction, pi line position, compass over screen adaptations, flux over 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and 11, and 12, and the same direct setting. Setting lines of course centers, inside track locations. See? Inside. Everything's inside. What makes it more real is how you platform your line position locations, your alphabetical lines of grounds, and set track location to a setting. Look at the waves. Inside traction. So it's very powerful when you just basically get in position location setting, how to see the game inside of you. How to see the game inside of you in all different angles, all at once. From the ceiling to the floor, okay? To the floor to the ceiling, okay? It's incredible, it really is. So it gets a lot more communication lines and grounds, but you have to understand how to line signal your system through your entry and your position, your exit points. Setting lines of track centers. Now coming into high information line counts, it gets more complicated when you're going into numbers. Let's go into 7. Now how do I come inside 7? Well, this 7 goes inside location. You go inside. You don't go outside. So 3 lines of signals. Okay, you see you're working inside line. Okay, but everything is the laser track centers, but you have to modify the system all through travel, right? It's working inside, not outside of 7. Platform communicates the system all through setting. So you can see it going from inside, right? You see the platform, right? And then you get into the grounds. Set position location setting. You're standing in top lines and set position outline course centers. Okay, on top, right? But to understand that is understand the modification of its grounds. So its floor, inside, see? You went from inside and outside at the same time. Inside there, outside there, right? So if you really understand this, it gets much to see the A tracks, A line settings that set lines of course, centers, lines of travels, A position lines of B equals lines of C and center. Okay. Now get in that communication lines, A over track location lines of direct and redirect and set position. Now you're inside and inside at the same time because you're putting in a dome. Cross lines over lines, 3 lines of angles and track locations. Now you're seeing the structure of the building on both sides of angles and line position location of the system all through traction. Structures of the building, structures of the wall, right? So it's amazing how you can constantly change anything you want to do in platform communication system, or you can see yourself in a structure of a building being on top and being in position location of 3 lines of angles and track locations. You climbing the structure of the building. From the bottom to the top, at surface. Now you got an XT1000 picking you up in travel. Right? Woo! And change the direct signals to ground lines of surface and track location to a system. Okay? Setting line setting. Set location down now, right? Change the communication lines of angles. So now it's fluxing into another portal of communications. Setting lines of track centers and all direct signals, the ground lines of surface and traction. Hooah! Oh, disappeared. You're not ready to see the frequency is too high. But it's amazing what you can do in all 4 different angles and track locations. Bring it back home sequence, back in panel, back in operation, back in screen, and set positions. Hooah! See? Isn't that powerful? Isn't that amazing? Seen on a 4-line flush, indirect signals and through lines of setting and perimeters. Primer circuits core lines into your primates, puts lines into all of your pre-dials. Now, pre-core lines is the pre-line core centers that pre-lines of set location to setting into all lines of travels. Setting lines of direct signals and 4 lines of box. Set a 4 communication system. So inside is inside tractions. This is inside. Very simple. Very easy to do, right? And then you go through an energetic dome, right? Then you go into the process of the sun, right? Sunset, sunrise, right? Pretty simple to do, right? But what you also have to identify is that you can also go outside line communication, right? But you have to line signal each line in communication system all through travel. So it has a direct line link of what it's doing in its set position of its system all through its transformer. There's a transformer. Boom. So, signal lines of 1, signal lines across, overlying signal, over grounds, over surface, over track location. There's your pyramid. Pyramid looking this way. Pyramid looking that way. Now if I do this, look at this interaction. Whoa. Inside, outside, above side. All right, so set core lines, mothership here. XC1000s and 2 platforms and setting is space lines of anomaly. Outside, right? So you're working inside a spectrum and portals and stargates and overlines and signals and track location. Okay? So that's communication lines of grounds and high lines of surface and track correlation system of travel. Open window frame, box frame. 3 angles, point lines of graphs, and track location of travel, right? Setting core centers of the sun and the moon and the same direct signals and ground lines of surface going through its wormhole and rotation surface and its pyramid track location. Hooah. Setting core lines of settings, processing communication lines of 45 angles and travel. Flux over screen, ground lines of surface and travel communications and setting. Over sequence, over panel, process in position, back in setting. Hooah. So, getting lines of letters, numbers, shades, and symbols comes in all lines inside correlations to a box frame. Inside, guys. Look how powerful it is. It's all inside. All inside. Okay, so you got to start to see a box in position above, sides, below. Start with that. Start with the 4 angles. 4 signal lines, ground lines of setting existing all at once. 1, process lines of 3, process lines of 6, and travel. 3 different configuration system and geo lines, geo patterns, core standard lines of patterns of behavior, light metaphors, high travel, in-point lines, metric meters of scales, cubical screen line adaptations, but different shades of anomaly. Okay, of 4 tractions. Setting lines of 1, setting lines of 2 of panels. Okay, and track locations. Pyramid inside each one. Okay? So, sets core centers into your highway. There's your highway. Now, how the highway comes together is setting line position location, setting and your floor mats. Setting screen adaptation, high center lines of surface and track locations. Setting direct lines, influx over screen, and adaptation lines of surface. Bringing in signals and ground lines, a high correlation system, all through your traffic and your inventories and set traction. Process lines of setting, process lines of E, process lines of D, and track locations. Platforms line, indirect signals, and ground lines of surface and track locations. There's your platform going up, and there's your platform going across. And set position. So you climb in the ladder. This is you climbing the ladder. Okay, and then you're going up here. There's you in the center. And then you go over here, and there you're on top of the set position. Yep, disappeared. Vortexed it quick. All right, so you really have to understand how this all works in communications, guys. It's amazing how you see yourself inside and outside and on top of anything in travel, all through a box. All right, so you got platforms here. You're sending lines of communication settings coming together, right? All right, so set lines of mechanism laser. Each line has a connected setting high grids. Setting process lines and settings of 3 triangulations of flux over correlation system and travel. All right, so ground lines of setting, 45 angles, only split lines of anomaly of 2/3 lines of grounds. Cross line connection setting, process lines of indication system, all through laser track locations. Okay, so we have ground line settings, process lines of platform, indirect center of center communication setting, overrides the signal and locations of box frame and track location. All right, high core centers, center operates lines of surface. Look at that. Always see things in a 4 different angle. So you have to understand, there it is. There is your sky grid. Okay, sky grid lines, you got to see thousands in above signal in track locations. So you got to see it on 4 different angles of screen. In a platform, the setting, E factors over line. There's your platforms and track locations, your traffic and your runway. All right, so you got signify, core lines of setting, process lines of setting, process lines of 3, center line communication setting, over cross location setting, high position location of A tracks, setting lines of signals, and line rotation setting in travel in communication system, all through open sequence. Changing the panels, changing the structure, changing the timeline, changing panels and position location of its wall circuits, high screen adaptation inside track location, high lines, a high center line position location inside track location. Inside, inside, inside. Okay? Outside becomes inside, inside becomes outside. All through structure, all through design. All right, bring it back home, back in the channel, back in operation, high setting, high position. Okay? This is what you have to understand because it's all inside you. Its mechanism, the holographic gridding, live in the cycles inside of you of the holographic city that you set and design inside of you. Inside of you. Okay? So getting into the perception and lines of perspective is knowing exactly how to come into Hall communications. Let's go into circle. Okay, so how do we go? We understand the outside. This is the outside of a circle, a travel. But we also have to understand the inside of a travel. Inside, outside, easy, right? Then we get the platform, there's the road. Okay, inside. It's inside now, right? So we have an XC1000 over here, crossing in position locations, right? Crossing lines of angles and line communication setting on all lines of travel, directing here, and travel inside position. Okay, it's going through a tunnel, right? Then it goes to a location grid. Okay? Then it crosses angles in a 3-line communication setting, high lines of surface and track locations. Inside position, inside, inside, inside. Inside through a circle. So letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols is the basic grounds, but you have to understand your entry and your exit points. And how you put your alphabetical system is all levels, how you see yourself in triangulation box, inside and outside in division. Okay? Because the more you go inside, the more you direct your system because you know what outside is in settings. But it's amazing what you can do as you can constantly change the direct signals and ground lines of service in high position location system all through travel. Look at that. Right? So it's a grid on a 45 angle. Now if I do this, look at this in travel. Okay? There's the towers of communication setting. 4 lines of angles in communications. There's the structure, there's the building. Ooh. All right, and XC1000's above signal. Okay, and you're here. Hey, pick me up! So your ground lines, core centers, circulation, rotation, surface, sending lines of half pipe, line rotation, surface, and track coordinating setting, going through a black hole in set position all at once. Hooah! See it now? Everything's inside you. Okay? Stop looking everything outside and start looking everything inside your system. And this is all signals, all communication, modification lines, all through a box. And look what you can create inside your system. An actual holographic gridding of a structured design, living the cycles inside a house. Inside a square, inside a triangle, inside a letter, a number, shape, a symbol, doesn't matter. But you live inside. But you also live outside. But it's this. It's always this now. Okay? This is the inversion. We live this way. And then we go this way. There's the balance. Okay? So we see in 3 different angles in set position. One here. Center core track centers in an open window frame in here in traction. Setting signals and ground lines of setting in process communications. Right? Setting lines of core centers inside track location to a system. Okay? Setting lines of position of 1, 2, and position of projection and track locations. Okay? Okay, so you grid lines of 1 and process lines of 3. Okay, but look at the structure of the building and track location. See the structure of the building? See the planets? Okay, swirl core centers, hydraulic signals, grounds. Symbol is an over cross location setting and all lines of operation set track locations. Whoa! And you are basically going around inside the tunnel, inside the wormhole. Okay? So, but it's all levels of inside you, isn't it? Inside of everything. Your spectrum light, your core lines of attractions, high direct signals, and modification, high calculation system puts everything in line position location setting. So you have an A track outside and you have an A track inside. You got a B flat, okay, and you got a C center. Set position of 1 over 2 over 3 and track lines of 4. A lines of track centers of 1, A lines of track centers of 2, and sig lines of communication. Overline signals, ground lines of surface and platforms, over cross locations. Above the signals, you are here in travel. On the platform, right? But you have to understand laser attractions, how everything has to connect. Everything has to connect to platforms. It's much easier if you understand it through the alphabetical system. That's how a computer operates. That's how a computer sets its algorithm. That's how it sets up its digital frame. That's how it sets up its CGI. That's how it sets up its vision and its cortex and its kinetics to its algorithm setting. Okay, process here, look at that. Okay, so we got gridding here, 3 lines of tractions and 2 line division. Okay, wall sequence lines of panels and direct signals in the opposite angles and track location. Okay, okay, so we got platform A, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and 6 locations. Now it's working inside, see? So the more you go inside, the more you see yourself inside and line position location to its system. Everything's inside now. Whoa. Right? So I'm going to go here, and now I'm inside of platform communications. Okay? Outside to inside. Right? XC thousands above and track location. Right? Now, XC1000, docking center, inside location. Okay? The liquid center operation of center position of point lines and graphs sets lines communication setting high lines of track center location to a system all through travel. Inside, guys, inside. Okay? Back in center, back in operation, back in sequence. Okay? Webbing system lines of track centers opens all signified correlates in high position location to a system. So let's get a calculation line high center. So let's process communication setting to all levels. Let's go into 4 division. Let's turn a 4 into inside. You see it outside, right? Outside is this. Stop going into that. You are here inside of everything in traction. See how it comes together? You see it? Now, setting lines of 1, 2, and 3. Position of 4 into 5. You see the structure of the building, right? You can see it coming in formation here in track locations. There's the building, there's the setting. See the building? See the building? See the building? All right, so we set lines of grounds. Platforms overline signal. Headache core center and direct signal to modification grounds. All right, guys, structure line of building and a flux line going down lines of signals in process communication setting, overline signals into the other side of track location setting. Two vision location setting to two structure division. Setting core line settings is center line and center communication of wormhole travel endpoint communications. Setting track centers, XD thousands coming out in platform. Inline rotation surface interactions. Landing on position location and ground lines is set position. Hooah! And this is what you can do through a 4. A number 4. Hooah! All right. So the more the modification system changes line connection setting all through travel and direct signals and track location system. Look at that. Face recognition. There's the tie. See the tie is the structure of the building. There's my face. There's my body. A bow. All right. But you can see the body, right? All right. So we're going to cross angles, 3 lines of signals at V-line rotation. Setting track line centers. Now we go, oh, and signals and location system. Structure of a building upside down, but at a different angle. Which means the position lines of high centers, inline rotation, high calculation setting, processes communication system all through travel. Center core system and 3 lines of flux. Setting line direct signals and pi and screen adaptation. Different angles, different course. 3 signals, process lines of 2 platforms, 3 platforms, directing line rotations into its pyramid and platforms and track location to its system. All right, so it's setting from here, this angle, from the structure going this way, but a platform going this way, right? So it's the opposite way in traction, see? Setting up a holographic grid on top. All right, so we got structure line divisions. Now we're walking across the structure of the building. Everybody's freaking out. Well, this is what it's out there straight as stand because this is all your dreams interpretation system. Walking on a structure of a building is set position. You see how I changed the angle of the structure of the building? Look at this. Climbing up the building. I'm on top of the building. Woo! 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 Set tractions. Now I'm going through the portal. There it is, going through the portal. See that? Climbing up the building first and then going through the portal. Isn't that wild? Everything is a story frame, guys. And the more you realize that, the more you see yourself inside yourself. Okay, that was fun. And this is all through a number 4. Just the number 4. Look what I created all through the number 4. An actual story existing all at once, everything happening all at once in set position. Hooah! Right? But I really want you to pay attention to this, to understand this, to understand this, and all 4 signals in track location, everything inside setting, on 4 different angles in track locations. Now, how you see that in a communication system is, oh, levels in track location. Let's go into 6. Let's go inside. So how do we go inside of 6? We divert inside. And then we outline its signal. Okay? And then we track this communication system. And then we highline rotation, surface, and traction. There's my teleportation, right? Setting course centers, there's the travel. I'm inside now, right? So the more you come inside, the more you see the signals in line rotation. Setting position this way, setting position, process, communication system, and travel. But if you look at this, look at the intelligence information. Hooah! Say hello, say hello. Right? And platforms of communications. All right, so set lines of high position here, signify line position security lines of measure, process lines of 1, 2, and 3 lines of communication. Okay, now we get position lines of high structures of a building and position located to a system all through traction. Okay, very powerful stuff. Inside lines, 3 lines of signals, 3 lines of track centers, 4-line rotation setting, process communication setting, overcross location to another building on the other side, and rotation surface and traction. 2 buildings in one. I like doing the buildings because it lines of position locations into all levels in retrospecs. 4 lines of angles, setting lines of 1, setting lines of 2, setting lines of 3, setting lines of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 track locations. There's the full building at all sides. All right, so cross-line communication setting over line signal location to its system puts all track location setting into the inline rotations in travel communication lines. Seeing the structure building on all sides. See? Look at this in travel. Upswing and direct locations. There's the building. Okay, 4 lines of signals, process lines of setting. And here's a building here. And here's another building here, right? So you got 3 buildings in one. So I'm just showing you how you can do this all through a box frame, all line position of a 6 in screen adaptations and process communication system. 3 buildings in one setting and 1 traction and 1 locations and set traction. 3 buildings in one. Hoo-ah! All through the number 6. Okay? Yes. Basically, David, get in signal lines of course centers, lines of track centers, wait for Q&A in class, okay? Don't modify lines of speaking lines because you're not in track application of various lines of cycles. But it's amazing how you come into this formation system all through traction, right? How you can go in 4 different angles. It's a film strip that just, but you're doing it in lines of seconds, minutes, and hours. So you're constantly changing what? The structure of the building, the structure of the intelligence, the structure of the atmospheres, the structure of the shape, the structure of the story. You're constantly changing the shape. And that's what makes it so fantastic, seeing everything from inside position and track locations. And everything in line position locations of everything inside and outside in set position. Okay? So always see yourself from inside and outside of everything. All at once. Puts the lines of communication lines of angles in track in its communication lines of surface. Now that the lines of signals puts everything in line communication setting. Let's get into a star. Star, right? 1 angle, 2 angle, 3 angle, 4, 5 angles in a star. But you already see the structure of the building, right? So it's amazing how you come into grid lines, process lines of signal. Okay. Then let's get into window frame. Overline sequence lines of panel. Okay. Process lines is laser, but you're constantly, what you're doing is you're getting in communication lines of laser tractions, setting up another platform and set lines. 2 frame in communication system and travel. Okay. Change communication lines of high direct signals and platforms inside the star. Inside the star. Inside. So the star is inside now. You see it? It's inside now. So it's amazing how you go from A track to a B track to a C track to a D equals lines of E, set position lines into question, direct lines of triangulation in box, flush screens into bi-screen adaptation. Okay. Center core centers is the structures of the building, wall sequence lines of panels. 2 sides of the structure of the building. Right? Now it gets much easier when you start to recognize what is going on with you in provision. Seeing different angles on a 45 angle. Look at this. You see 3 platforms of the building. Weird, eh? 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. 1 at the top, 1 inside, 1 outside a platform. So it's amazing how you come into that in all positional keys to its traction. Right? You see yourself above. You see yourself climbing. And you see yourself inside in track locations. 2 tractions of setting, 1 set position of box frame, and all sequence above set location. Different angles all through position locations. Okay? It's absolutely amazing. what you can do with letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, guys. It helps you and guides you, but you got to see yourself in a triangulation inside and outside division. Triangulation in and triangulation out. Box in and box out in setting. Okay, direct and redirect. So the more you process that, the more it gets easier in dimensional layers like this, which is your sonic waves, which means it's all position location in your system all through your pyramid. Setting lines of grounds, laser, 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 laser. Okay, mapping sequence 1, mapping sequence 2, mapping 3, mapping 4, set communication lines in position location, your DNA track location, inside calculations. Pattern communications, center lines, center communications, center lines of service, platitude walking screen, indirect signals, and 3 platforms, indirect lines of ground communications. Okay? Sending lines of recourse, calculation setting, use Schumann resonance. Okay, sending lines of attractions in the opposite direct signals and laser track relates and setting the theta. Sound waves, direct lines of 0. Position lines of 1, 0, 0, 1, 2, 1. Okay. Energized platforms lets you go through coloration line screen, directing lines of 1 over 2 over 3. Delta and theta. Cross line signals in the opposite signal location setting, voice line grids over cross location system as sonar and track location setting. Voicing grid lines of pattern. Setting track lines, high correlation system, all through green. Now, the green central lines is communication lines of its wave. The central system changes the track communication setting to Schumann resonance. You see it in travel? All right. That's what you Schumann resonance. It's all connected to the A-track location, your higher self. Setting platforms in track location lines of high position location to a cycle. Setting ground lines, core centers, up signals into window frames in track location. TV monitor. Platforms and then set lines, high core centers, split lines of anomaly. Platform here, E-track locations and structure line division. So I'm constantly changing the structures of its waves in track location. Okay, I'm changing it to something else in platform. Bring it back home, back in sequence, back in panel, back in operation system. Right? So it's overlapping, over sequence, over pi. There's a lot of things you can do once you understand how to go inside in track location. Okay, guys? Inside of everything. See, the more you modify yourself, the more you see everything inside your system. And that puts all lines in the box frame in track location to its inversion. And that's how you're going to start seeing things on Friday, which is tomorrow in sequence. So everything is going to be coming to you now. It's set traction. Inside. And then you realize you're inside of everything. See? Inside of everything. And then you go this way, which is outside of everything. Oh! So your projection is here. You're seeing the pyramid here that links the signals here, that links the signals here in travel. Okay? 3 different angles and set lines and spring lines, correlation setting, and 3 track locations. So what are you seeing now? The structure of the building inside your system. It's crazy, isn't it? Look at this. Look at this all through projection. And it's all in different angles too. Look at that. Okay, you see the platform, right? But you also see the stealth. You see the platform, and you're on top right here, looking and waving. Hey, how's it going? Right? You're saying goodbye. There's the stealth. Color it in, takes off, above the building, outline of the communication setting of its delta heading. Oh yeah. Everything is a story. And the more you understand that, the more you get the signal. All right? So, hope you guys had fun. Talk to you in 5.